First question is from health coach Liz. What's the difference between strength training and hypertrophy training? Don't they both produce muscle mass?
They do both produce muscle mass. Resistance training done, generally speaking, I know, it was weird.
Yeah.
Done, generally speaking, with reps anywhere between 1 to 30. They're all pretty much going to build muscle. But when you get down to the specifics, some rep ranges build more strength in the low rep range. Others might build more stamina and endurance, obviously the higher rep ranges. Now, if you do a short-term study and you try to compare rep ranges and you see, which one builds the most muscle, and they've done studies like this, typically they'll find that these kind of mid-range rep ranges build a little bit more muscle. This 8 to 12 rep range tends to do that. But here's the problem with that. The problem with that is if you stay in that rep range for too long, it actually stops working, and then you build more muscle by switching out of it. In fact, some of the greatest muscle gains I've ever seen in clients were taking people that always trained in the 8 to 12 rep range and then just move them out of it, and then they see these huge gains. So I think it is important to understand the differences, but don't get caught up in them. Realize that all of them, if your goal is to build muscle and develop a balanced physique, then you should train in all of the rep ranges. The only people that should stick primarily in one, but even then I'll recommend that they move out every once in a while, are people who have to compete in that particular rep range. So if you're a power lifter, you're probably going to spend most of your time in the lower rep ranges. For example, if you're an athlete and you want to build strength endurance, you might spend more of your time in the higher rep ranges. But for the average person, you want to play with all of them.
Well, I think you should have clarified first that the rep ranges for each one of those, what represents them, right? So we're assuming that everybody knows that strength training is the 1 to kind of 5 rep range or 1 to 6 rep range, and hypertrophy is somewhere between 8 to 12 rep range. So that's the difference between the two of them is the rep ranges that we're talking about. And technically rest periods and tempo can be in there. So there's I forget where I came across. Boy, this today. I came across this infographic that had it was a quadrant, and you had your strength training up to your power, strength, hypertrophy, and then endurance, right? So, and your power is in this under two reps, so the single rep, and it's fast 1-1-1 tempo. So you're just working on explosive training. That would be power, and then strength would technically be somewhere between the 2 and the 6 rep range, and then your tempo is a 1-2-1 type of tempo for that, and longer rest periods. And then you start going into the hypertrophy, which is 8 to 12 rep range, 90-second type of rest periods, tempo being more like a 2-2-2 type of tempo, or a 4-2-2. And then you get into your endurance, which is over 15 rep range and short to no rest periods. So that's really and again, those are, I think debating over all that, which one builds more muscle is pointless, because no matter which category you fall under, whether you're strength training, power training, endurance training, or hypertrophy training, the key is to move in and out. If your main goal is to build muscle, burn body fat, build a better physique all around, from performance to how it looks, everything, it's most advantageous for you to move through all of them and reap the benefits of all of them.
Now, in those studies that prove that that rep range was probably the best for building muscle, was that just mainly about circumference and the size of muscle, or were they actually talking about actually promoting more muscle fibers?
Both. Yeah, they're talking about, but again,
in a short window. You're talking about a 6 to 12 weeks.
Here's the bottom line. The bottom line is all those rep ranges build muscle.
Yeah.
And
they all have different benefits.
And they're going to build a lot of muscle if it's new for you. If you haven't trained, if you look at all of our MAPS programs, and we target different avatars. So there's, MAPS programs for more bodybuilder-oriented people, MAPS programs for people who like to do unconventional training, for people who like to train more athletically, and so on. We have all these different programs, but if you look at inside all of our programs, all of them take you through all the different rep ranges.
No matter what your goal is.
No matter what, because there's value in all of it. One of the big mistakes anybody can make with their long-term training strategy is to stick with the same kind of programming for too long. No matter how great your program, and programming refers to exercises, sets, reps, rest periods, essentially the structure and style of the workout. If you stay in a style for too long, it just stops working. Doesn't matter how great it worked for you to begin with. Everything works, nothing works forever.
The body's always trying to get more efficient and better at whatever you're doing. And so that's just what happens.
Totally. I mean, the first MAPS program created was MAPS Anabolic. It's a very good general muscle builder, metabolism booster. It's great for strength. And it starts with the phase 1, which is low reps. And what's great about that, and one of the reasons why I put that phase first when I first wrote that, is because I knew a lot of people would get the program who rarely train in that phase, that were used to training in 8 to 12 or 15 to 20 reps, because that's what people tend to do. So then they do the program, get in that first phase, and it will blow them away right out the gates because it was a new stimulus. They never had trained consistently in that rep range. That's by far one of the biggest mistakes, long-term speaking, is sticking too long in one thing and getting caught up in this kind of stuff. This is where data and studies can lead people wrong, because the studies aren't wrong. Yes, 8 to 12 reps in these, 3-month studies show that you'll build a little bit more muscle size in 8 to 12. By the way, it's a little bit. It's not a huge difference, okay? It's not like double the muscle. It's a little bit of a difference. But they'll show that. So what happens is people see that, they're like, that's the one I'm going to train in. I'm never going to train in.
Never going to leave.
And you end up missing out on so much more muscle and strength because of that. It's a big problem.
Well, the truth is both of them build muscle mass, and both of them can also not build muscle mass. Right. So if whatever one you've been doing for months and months and months, if you've been sticking to that consistently, just simply switching to the other one is going to build the most muscle. So just keep that in mind.
It's so funny too, because when I first started working out, and again, I train my clients so much better than myself. I must have fallen for this at least 3 or 4 times, if not more, where I'd move into a new style of training and I'd get great gains right out the gates, right? So like 3-4 weeks, I'm like, oh my God, I'm building muscle, I'm getting stronger. This is the key. And then I would stick to it like hard-headedly until it was just obvious that it stopped working for me. And then I'd be like, I need to figure out what's going on. Then I'd read some article that says, oh, if you do 20 reps, it builds more muscle. Then I try 20 reps, and then, of course, it's going to work. And then I'd be like, oh, this is the key. This is what I was missing. Mm-hmm. Then I'd stick to that for way too long. It took me a long time to be like, wait, maybe it's changing. Maybe that's the key.
Yeah.
Maybe the key is to move in and out of these different ranges.